Having the right snare sound for every tune is super important, but sometimes the standard snare size does not do the trick. Here are some special options you should definitely look into. Hey Drum Bash community, Andy here once again, and today it's about special snare sizes. Usual snare sizes are mainly 14x5 or 14x6.5. You might also come across 13-inch snare models quite regularly, but those are kind of the standard. But what if those do not deliver the sound that you're looking for a specific tune, or when you're producing a song and you need just an auxiliary different snare sound and your snare does not deliver that? For this scenario, I want to show you some options that really break this rule of 14x5, 14x6.5 and go in a very different direction. Let's start with the one that's maybe the most usual size of the 5 I want to show you. Compared to a 14x6.5 Supraphonic, this Mapex Black Panther WASP snare with 10x5 looks pretty small. But do not underestimate a snare of this size, because if you're looking for a high-pitched snare that will really crack your head open with every hit, this is your choice. Let me demonstrate you what I mean. Oh, that was loud. And now if you turn the snares off, you also get a timbala-like sound that you can use for reggae playing, for example. Now, while this is what you might expect from a snare of that size, why not try and tune it all the way down and see how it sounds in that range. To be honest, I added some moon gel to control the overtones a bit, but as you could witness, this also works. Of course, the comfort zone is in the high range, but everything in between is kind of possible. Another cool thing you have with a snare of that size is that this size has a tom mount, so you can place it wherever you want around the kit, and you're very flexible because you don't need an extra stand and can do it with a multi-clamp somewhere, wherever you want. Now let's go on with something completely different. PDP has the 12x8 Dry Maple Snare to offer. And 12 inches is kind of an in-between size, because 14 inches is, like I said, the standard size for snare drums, and 10 inches is like the standard size for auxiliary snares like we just had with the WASP snare. And 12 inches is the in-between solution that gets you best of both worlds. Just by the head they've chosen, with a super wide dampening ring underneath, tells you that they want it to be a pretty dead sound. So what I tried first is a low and really muffled tuning. Wow, that was fat, especially for a 12-inch drum. But what if you want a higher tuning? Let's check it out. But if you want to get an open sound, a lot of overtones, you need to get a different drum head. Now another thing that's pretty cool about this size is that it's actually a tom size. So what you could also try would be to use it without the snares, use it as a rag tom, and then turn the snares on and you got two sounds with one drum. Now 12 by 8 is a pretty deep shell, and this is the total opposite. You might be familiar to piccolo snares with 14 by 3, 14 by 4, but this is 10 by 2. And 2 inches, that's not very much, and that's really special shell size. Of course, what sticks out first are the jingles. So you can see this is not a regular drum. It's more of an in-between between a snare, because it has a regular snare strainer, and a tambourine. And this gives you a completely new sound color. Let's check it out first in a high tuning that also matches the look of the drum. Do you like that sound? Or would you like it in a lower tuning? Let's check out what this sounds like. Like with all of those, it's totally up to you how you use it and in what tuning range you're gonna work with it. But since this one also works well in a very high tuning, let's check out a drum that's really made for a low, fat, ballad-like tuning. Now this looks very different. 14 by 10, what a huge snare drum. And since a drum of that size would not fit in a usual snare stand, because snare stand would be too high and then you have the drum head over here and you don't want to play up here, so they added floor tom legs. And now this can be officially called a snom. And what is a snom? A snom is the combination of a floor tom and a snare. So you get the features of a floor tom, the size kind of a floor tom, with snares that you can attach. So before we get into how it sounds as a tom, let's check out what it sounds like as a snare. And it works perfectly well for very low tunings, for ballads, for example, so let me play a slow groove with a very fat backbeat. This snare is really built for this sound, and you can tell they know about it because they ship it with a pretty wide dampening ring. And with this one on top, perfect ballad snare, low fat sound. Now, if you play it without the snares and it's in a pretty low tuning, let's check out if it also works as a second floor tom. Now this tom sound also works well, but this snare is built for that low fat snare sound. And that's what it's really good in. If you're looking for a higher snare sound, you can try it with this one, but that's not what it's built for, so I'm not gonna demonstrate that in this video. For example, you could also place the snom over here, have two floor toms, and no one will notice that you actually brought a second snare drum. Now, did you like this one? If yes, post it in the comments. If you want to know more, check the description for the links for more info about the snares. And now let's go on to the last snare in this list, and that's actually also the smallest. Now coming from a very large one, this Tama 6x3 Metalworks effect snare is something very different and looks more like a toy. They come in 14, 10, 8 and 6 inches, and they're all just 3 inches in depth. What they also ship with is this multi-clamp that enables you to place it wherever you want on your drum kit. Here, for example, I'm gonna just place it next to the hi-hat so I can play it as a second snare. Get some mics in place. If you're wondering, for all the video, all snares were recorded with a Sennheiser E904 below and an SM57 on top. And now you got no reso head, so they don't have usual snares below, but they have this little brush-like thingy under the head, and you have this little throw-off mechanism over here that actually also works really smooth and is easy to set up. Now, let's check out what this little guy sounds like. Now this works really well, and for example you could use it in drum and bass music or wherever you need a very short, very articulate high snare sound. Now you could also use it as a mini timbale. For that, just disengage the snares and here you go. Okay, so now maybe you might be wondering, how low can you go? And let's find out. This for sure. Low tunings for a snare of 6 inches, that's not where it has its strengths. But let's find out. Is this something for you, this little guy? I actually kind of like it, but of course, it's a very unique and very special tool. Now with those 5 very different snares covered, you have a lot of options to choose from. If you go back and think about the sizes we had, you could also build a whole kit of those, like 12x8 rack tom, 14x10 floor tom, and then the other snares just thrown around. You don't need any other drums than snares. What a great message. Now, let us know in the comments, what are your favorite snares to use? Do you use any auxiliary snares with special sizes, or are you more into the 14x5, 14x6.5 straightforward standard snare sizes? Let us know in the comments, and I hope to see you in one of the next videos.